Okay, beis, welcome back. Now this week we're going to be giving a shiur on forbidden images number 2. Actually, this shiur is not live right now. I gave this shiur a couple weeks ago, and for some reason it recorded without sound. So we're going again for my virtual audience. Okay, guys. So in the last shiur we discussed there's a issur to make an image of a person. We discussed the Shulchan Aruch Paskins that there is no issur to make a 2D image of a person, like a picture, but there is an issur of making a 3D image, like the form of a body. Like, we discussed how that relates to statues and dolls, etc. I am last shiur. And we also discussed how the Taz was actually machmir by the 2D images, by the pictures that you shouldn't have the image of a person, and we discussed that there's such a chumrah, but that the halacha is we allow pictures of people. Now the Shulchan Aruch continues in the same sif, and it says that there is an issur to make a image of a sun, stars, or moon. These emissaries that serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak. So there is an issur of making an image of the sun, moon, and stars. And over here, it's not just the Taz, but the Shulchan Aruch himself says that even a 2D flat image, picture, painting, whatever it is, of the sun, moon, and stars is a problem. Now, this is shocking to a lot of people. A lot of people do not know this halacha. I'm not clear why this halacha isn't very well known, but that is how the Shulchan Aruch paskins. No doubt about it. Now, fine. Now, a question that a lot of people want to know is, why is it that when it comes to the sun, moon, and stars, we answer a picture, a 2D image, whereas when it comes to the people, we only answer a 3D image, la halacha. So, the Taz, among others, explains, even though the Taz, interestingly enough, was the one who answered a 2D image, even of a person. But the Taz, among others, explains the chiluk in the Shulchan Aruch, and says, the pshat is, it's how we relate to the image. When it comes to a person, we normally see a person in its full 3-dimensional form. So therefore, we're only going to answer a person in his 3D form, 3-dimensional form. But when it comes to the sun, moon, and stars, when we look up at the Shemayim, how do we see, how do we understand, how do we relate to the sun, moon, and stars? We see them in the 2D form, in the 2-dimensional form. We don't get to see them in a 3D form. And therefore, for us, it's going to be usher to have an image of the sun, moon, and stars, even in a 2D form. Now, there's definitely an issur of making a image of the sun, moon, and stars. Is there issur of owning as well, or is the issur just making? So, L'maisa, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch says that one is allowed to own it, they just can't make it. However, the Chachmas Adam and the Shach both say that there's the issur even to own the image of the sun, moon, and stars. The Maisa, the Poskim are machmir, like the Chachmas Adam and the Shach, and we say that you cannot own one of those images. Fine. What degree of accuracy is needed for it to be considered an image of these sun, moon, stars? To what degree, how far does it have to go? What is precise enough to be considered an image of the sun, moon, and stars? So I saw that the Chutz Shani explains that the issur is based on how we perceive it. So therefore, if you make one of those 5-cornered shapes, that's an image of a star. So at the Chutz Shani, that's a problem. Why? Because when we see that image, when we see that 5-corner thing, we know it's a star. And if we know it's a star, even that is a problem. Someone recently asked me, a girl, she teaches art, and she showed me a picture that she does with her art students, where you see a little, moon and the star, sorry, there's no moon actually, I take that back. There is a dark sky, and you see these little twinkles in the sky. And she asked me, is that a problem? And I said, I think it is a problem, because everybody who looks at those little twinkles, even though they don't really look like a star, but since everybody who sees them relates to them and understands and knows that they are stars, therefore, l'chayra, it is a problem to make those images. Definitely, the Chutz Shani, it would be a problem to make them. They represent stars. Apparently, a Magen David does not represent the star; it's its own image, and therefore a Magen David would not be a problem. Similarly, making an asterisk symbol would not be a problem. That does not represent a star. Interesting question I was thinking about. What about drawing the U.S. flag, the United States of America flag? Now we know in the top left corner of the flag we have 50 stars. So is that a problem? So my first feeling was it's a problem. It's images of the stars. But then I was thinking that, well, it's really representation of the states. We know there's 50 stars to represent the 50 states. So maybe it's not really representing stars, it's really representing states. I'm a little bit in suffix. L'maisa, I think it's probably okay, but I'm just not positive, but I think it is okay. Because I think it's not really representation of stars, it's just a sign to represent the states. We say that you could give a kid a star on his sheet for good behavior or something like that. That is not a problem. What about drawing not the complete image, but a partial image? Could I draw the partial image of the sun, for example? So if you're drawing, like a lot of kids, they draw in the corner of the page. They draw like that. It's really only 25% of the sun because it's blocked off by the corner of the page. Would that be allowed? So the beis can say that would be allowed because that's not the full image of the sun. Like previously we discussed the image of a person. We discussed that it's not a problem if it's not the complete image. Well, over here it's not the complete image of the sun, and Memela, it is okay. What about a sun that's partially blocked by the clouds, or partially blocked because it's sunset or sunrise? And this is really negea, because these are times that people very often take pictures of the sun during sunset and sunrise. So what would be the halacha? So Mesa, the Shevet Levi, and the Chutz Shani, Rav Vosner, and Rav Nissen Karelitz, they both say that if it's only a partial image, it's fine. I don't care what time of the day it is, partial image is fine. Rav Vadia and the Minchas Yitzchak, they both are machmer, and they say since that's part of its natural form, to be during sunrise, sunset behind the clouds. Therefore, both the Rav Vadia and the Minchas Yitzchak, Diane Weiss, they both argue and they say that it is asur, the partial sun. L'maisa lahalacha, I think whenever you have a Chutz Shani and a Nissen Karelitz, a Chutz Shani and a Shevet Levi, Nissen Karelitz and Rav Vosner being mekel, l'chayra, you could be mekel. Now, what about a partial moon? So over there, when it comes to the partial moon, the Shevet Levi and Shalom Zalman, the poskim at large, they asur a partial moon. Now, what's the difference? Why would, for example, Rav Vosner, why is he mattering a partial sun, but asuring a partial moon? What's the difference? Both of them are not the full image. So there's a fundamental difference between a partial sun and a partial moon. A partial sun is an incomplete sun because 90% of the day you see it complete, and this specific time is when it's incomplete. It's not full. That's incomplete. Whereas a moon, most of the month you don't see the full moon. Based on how we perceive a moon, most of the month we perceive the moon in its partial state. And therefore, that partial state of a moon would be a problem because that is a normal moon. Now, drawing a circle with those rays sticking out, that would be a problem. Even if the sun doesn't really look like the circle with the rays sticking out, since that's in our viewpoint, that's the sun, Memela, it's a problem. Ramesha Feinstein writes, a little kid drawing the sun, if it's a little kid who draws it and you can barely tell what exactly it is, Memela, there's no issur in that if you can barely tell what it is. However, why would we get started in teaching kids how to draw the sun? You're barking up the wrong tree. Why would we do that? We don't want to be mechanech our kid to do something that eventually will be asur. And memela, we don't go and start showing them, we don't get them to start learning how to draw the pictures of the sun, because eventually it's going to be a problem. Let's discuss some common cases and maybe heter. Now, are you allowed to make a puzzle that has the sun, moon, and stars in it? So off the bat, it sounds pretty gefährlich, sounds pretty bad. Sun, moon, stars in a puzzle sounds horrible. However, I was trying to find some heterim, so I was thinking maybe there are some heterim. The Mesa, the Marit, who quotes the Rambam, says it needs to be something keva. It needs to be something, solid, lasting. Whereas a puzzle that's designed to make and take right back apart, maybe we'd be able to be mad to that because it's not lasting. L'chayr, we could. However, that doesn't help if you're the type that you take the puzzle and you frame it afterwards. If you're taking a puzzle and framing it, you wouldn't have that heter. So for that person, l'chayr would be a problem. Then I was thinking of maybe I think it was a little creative of me. The Gemara had 3 different heterim as to why Rabbi Gamliel was allowed to make the images of the moon for Kiddush HaChodesh purposes. And one of the reason that he was one of the heterim brought is prokem have. It was composed of multiple pieces that came together. So one big moon, that would be a problem. Multiple pieces that come together, that's okay. Rabbi say, what's a puzzle? A puzzle is multiple pieces putting together. So the chayra, from the Gemara, we should be able to say that a puzzle of sun, moon, and stars is just fine. However, the only problem is the Shulchan Aruch doesn't bring down this heter. I don't know why. The Shulchan Aruch brings down the other 2 heterim of Rabbi Gamliel. But for some reason, it was of Rabim or L'Slamed. Those are brought down. But the one in Prokem isn't brought down. I don't know whether because it wasn't so Negeya Shayach or we didn't hold of it L'Maisa. I'm not really sure. I'm sure this could for sure at least be a sniff later. Okay. What about these glow-in-the-dark stars? I tell you, my old apartment, my kids had these glow-in-the-dark stars that they put on the ceiling. And I was trying to think of a heter for them. So I was thinking, and the Maisa, I couldn't find any heter for the glow-in-the-dark stars. So the Chayra, it seems that those glow-in-the-dark stars, the image of the star, they even boil it a little bit. They're really just not 2D, they're pretty much 3D to some degree. I don't have a heter. I think those are a problem. I think those are issur. I don't think it's dark bezayin. I don't know. Doesn't sound good. Okay. Bedding or pajamas with the image of the sun, moon, or stars on it. So it also sounds like a problem. There might be a heterim of it being bedark bezayin. Definitely if it's like a junky kid's linen for sure. Or more like a not fancy type of pajama. Beseder. Tzarchin, if it's nice, tzarchin, if we could say maybe it's dark bezayin still. What about moon-shaped cookies? So this really depends. How do we view moon-shaped cookies? What's pshat in moon-shaped cookies, Rabbi say? Is it a shape or is it an image of a moon? It might depend on the person who makes it. I think most people that are making moon-shaped cookies, they're just using that as an interesting shape. But maybe there's some people that are doing it. Look, I'm doing a cookie in the shape of the moon. So I assume for most people it's going to be fine. But I'm a little scared to say blanket heter because maybe some people are going to go and make moon-shaped cookies because they're making them in the shape of the moon. Tzarachin. But pashas, it's fine. Okay. Now, Rev, what about taking a picture? Is taking a picture a problem? So the chayr, just like drawing a picture would be a problem, so too, taking a picture of the sun, moon, and stars would be a problem. Now, the mice over here, Rav Vosner and Rav Belsky have a big heter. They say that if you took a picture, what did you do? You didn't make the image. The problem is if you print or you develop the picture, now you made the image. But when you just took the picture, what did you do? Now, I wonder if times have changed since Rav Vosner and Rav Belsky said this. I don't know in what year they said this. They've both been nifter for around 7 years or so. I don't know exactly the amount. Maybe 5 years, 7 years, whatever it is. And I wonder if they would say the same svara of you haven't done anything when you take a picture. Once upon a time, the kunz took pictures in order to develop them. And therefore, if you haven't developed it, you haven't done anything. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe nowadays most people do not develop pictures. They keep it on their online folder. Maybe they even put it to their picture frame at home, their digital picture frame, and they put it in their Google Photos and etc. But most pictures are not printed. Yes, maybe they make an album here and there, but most pictures are not printed. So is it so pushing anymore to say the Heter, Rav Vosner, and Rebelsky that what have you done? No, I have the image. And I don't think it's so simple to say, it's like a davar she'im by mamish, the image that's on and you can't issur a davar she'im by mamish. If you understand what I'm saying, great. Because you have something there. You have an image on the screen. I think this heter is mamish nish pasha nowadays, but l'maisa, that is what they say. There is a heter brought by the Shulchan Aruch of l'Islamid. What's the heter? So it's one of the heters of Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel was allowed to make the images of the moon because it was to teach people so they could give the proper edus about Kiddush HaChodesh. Does this heter still apply? So, we have to ask ourselves, what does this heter include? So, this heter definitely still applies. It's brought by the Shulchan Aruch, but what is included? Now, obviously, if you're coming to teach Kiddush HaChodesh, then that's the Gemara. That for sure works to teach Kiddush HaChodesh. I actually had a very interesting thing when I gave it last year. My mother-in-law sent me a picture. My wife's great-grandfather, Rav Shmuel Tovia Stern, was a huge Talmid Chacham. He wrote over 30 Sfarim. So one of his Sfarim that he wrote was on Kiddush HaChodesh. Yeah, someone's holding when they write a sefer on Kiddush HaChodesh. You know what I mean? So he wrote a sefer on Kiddush HaChodesh, and my mother-in-law, who's an artist, she drew the cover of the sefer for him. Most of the Sfarim were just, a couple of Hebrew words on the cover. But this sefer, my mother-in-law drew the cover and drew, there was stars and there was like a moon on the cover. Is that allowed? So I guess the psak of Shmuel Tovia Stern, my wife's great-grandfather, was that since that's to catch people's attention, to learn the sefer, that's considered Islamid. That's part of the inyan of the sefer. And Memela, we know this is going to be able to teach people, get people involved and teach people in Kiddush HaChodesh. Memela, it would be allowed. Fascinating, geschmack. Now, how far does this go, this heter? So it definitely includes, let's say, the sugyas in Rosh Hashanah, which deal with the moon going around the sun, and obviously that's for sure included. Now, the poskim say it even includes, let's say, the story of Yosef's dream, etc., the sun and the stars, whatever, the moon and the stars. That's for sure all good. What about Limudei Chol? Would it work to teach Limudei Chol? So the Chut Shani, straight from Bnei Brak, says, the heter, that yes, you could make an image of the sun, moon, and stars in order to teach Limudei Chol. Now, the Minchas Yitzchak is a little bit more machmir. He says that you can only use the method of making an image of the sun, moon, and stars to teach if that's the only way you could do it. If you had a different way of teaching it without the image, you can't. It doesn't sound like the Chut Shani was quite as machmir. Now, fine. But one thing is clear, and the Chut Shani says this, that you cannot go and teach somebody how to draw and say, come here, draw the sun, moon, and stars. Because if the tachlis, the end game, is for them to be able to draw the sun, moon, and stars, you're teaching them how to do it, that's all issur. There's no heter to learn how to make the sun, moon, and stars. That definitely would not count. Go teach them how to draw anything else. Do not teach them how to draw the sun, moon, and the stars. Now, and that, by the way, back to the girl that asked me that she gives art lessons, so that would apply to her as well, that it would not be enough for teaching purposes. Now, in the same siman, in the later sif ches, the siman, by the way, is kuf mem aleph in Yeridea. We discussed that there's an issur to make a replica of the Heichel, the Chatzar, the Azara, the Shulchan, and the Menorah. All these things of the beis hamikdash, it's usher to make a replica. Now it's interesting, when it comes to the Azara, the Heichel, the issur is only if you make the exact dimensions of the Mishkan, Mikdash, whatever it was. However, when it comes to the Menorah, it says that you're allowed to make something with 5 or 6 arms, but you can't make something in Mateches that has 7 arms. But even if you don't do the exact size, it sounds like it is okay. Now the Chacham Tzvi, let's just go back a little bit. The Chacham Tzvi says that only a replica with all the bells and whistles, the Shulchan Aruch is not going this way. Chacham Tzvi says only an exact replica is the issur. If you're not doing an exact replica of the menorah and the mikdash, it's not a problem. The Marik says anything that would be kosher in the mikdash, even if it's not the same exact thing as the mikdash, but anything that would be kosher in the mikdash would be a issur to make. So once again, the mikdash, the menorah was 18 tvachim tall, 6 feet tall. But even if you did it shorter, it would still be kosher, and therefore it would be a problem. In the mikdash, they had all the flowers and the knobs and etc., gold, whatever, but it didn't need to be gold, and it didn't need to have all the flowers and the knobs. So Mimela, if you did anything that would be kosher in the mikdash, the Marek says it is a problem. The Bechor Shar, he's even more machmir. He says anything which is mateches, metal, with 7 branches is a problem. I don't care, even if it has a psul of whatever sort, it would still be a problem to use such a candelabra. Okay, now, how do we paskin? So we saw that the Shulchan Aruch paskins like the Marek. Anything that would be kosher, anything, even if it didn't have all the bells and whistles, would be a problem to make in the mikdash. Now, Shlomo Zalman says, and there, by the way, a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of people who have 5 children do know this, that there's the issur of having for your Shabbos leichter, your Shabbos candles, a 7-branch candelabra. Because of this marik. It's 7 branches, so it's round. Who cares? The chayr would be kosher in the mikdash. If it's there's no chiyuv that it had to be straight. That's how they did it, l'chatchila in the mikdash. But it's not puzzle for being round, and therefore, even if you do a round candelabra for hadlakas neighbors, if it's a 7-branched metal one, it would be a problem. I heard that if you go to like a tzarfim, etc., you can't even buy a 7-branched one. Okay. Now, Shlomo Zalman says that l'maisa, if someone has a 7-branch candelabra, you don't have to be meicha. L'maisa, if one wants to rely on the Chacham Tzvi, they could. They shouldn't l'chatchila, but you already own the 7-branched leichter. You don't need to throw it out. You could rely on the Chacham Tzvi. Now, what about a 7-branched electric menorah? You know, a lot of these like old school Young Israel or whatever it is, those shuls that were built in the early 1900s or late 1800s, with the big Ezra's Nashim upstairs, those type of shuls. And a lot of times they have those 7-branched electric menorahs. Are those okay? So, Rabbi Vadia says that, sure, it's not a problem. Why? It's electric! Well, you think they're going to use electric in the beis hamikdash? For sure, you can't use electric in the beis hamikdash. There's no basic kibble for the oil, and Mimela, it would be possible to make mikdash. So there's no issur, and the shul could have the 7-branched menorah. Gewaldig, geschmack. Now, Moshe Sternberg, however, is in Suffolk because he says something very interesting. He says, "I don't know. Is it necessarily for certain that the electric menorah would be possible in the mikdash? Don't get me wrong." They're not using it. It's not happening. There's no way they're going to be using an electric menorah in the beis hamikdash. However, at the end of the day, tachlis, is it so pashut that it was possible? Do we know for a fact that you couldn't use an electric menorah? Maybe, it is light. Maybe it would work. So therefore, Moshe Sternbach is machmir misafik. Fine. Now, I found what materials are included. So the Shulchan Aruch says mateches, which, modern Hebrew we would translate as metal. Now, I found it strange that the Shulchan Aruch says there's a problem with mateches. All the Nesei Kelim say matechas, metal, I guess, is a problem, but wood or earthenware, eitzer cheres, wood or earthenware, that's okay, that you could use. So I wanted to know, what is the deal with glass? Surely glass is much more similar to metal than wood or earthenware is. Why did the Nesei Kelim skip glass and jump to earthenware and wood? So, I want to bring and I want to prove to you that glass is closer to metal. How come am I going to prove it to you? The sugya of tefillas kelim. The Torah says there's 5 types of metal, 5 types of matechas that are chayev in tefillah. And that is what is true midaraisa. The Gemara says midrabanan, glass requires tefillah as well. Now, there are 2 ways of learning this Gemara. The way that I learned the Gemara was, these 5 metals require tefillas kelim, and glass, since it is similar to metal, in which way is it similar? It could be broken down, melted down, and reformed. Just like metal could be melted down and reformed, so too could glass be melted down and reformed. So since it's similar in characteristics to metal, therefore it also is chayev b'tefillah midrabanan. That's how I learned it. And based on the way that I learned it, glass is not matechas. I was listening to a shiur from Rabbi Kalas, and Rabbi Kalas, Rabbi Shagi Kalas, he learned it differently. He learned the Torah is mechayev you tefillah on those 5 metals, and glass, which is a type of matechas, even though it doesn't work in modern Hebrew, but glass, which is a type of matechas, but it wasn't listed in the Torah, would be mechayev midrabanan, because it is matechas. It's just not one of the matechas that was listed in the Torah. So what's the nafkamina between the way that I learned the Gemara and the way Kalas learned the Gemara? In Hilchos Tefillas Kelim, nothing, I think, because we both say glass requires Tefillas Kelim midrabanan. But the nafkamina, the chayra, might be right here. Why? Because the way that I learned it, the Shulchan says matechas is the problem of a 7-branch candelabra. A 7-branch leichter of matechas is a problem. The that I learned, glass, not a problem. But the way that Rabbi Kalas learned, so matechas is a problem. Any matechas, not the 5 matechas listed by Tefillas Kelim. We're not talking about Tefillas Kelim. We're talking now about the sugya of, lookalike menorahs, replica menorahs. So over here, when it says matechas, it would include glass, according to Rabbi Kalas, and according to the way Rabbi Kalas learned that Gemara, then glass would be required. I looked around and I actually didn't find it. I thought I would find it, but I didn't find it. I'm not sure what the deal is. I know that I once was in Geula, and Baruch Hashem, I have 5 children. So, I wouldn't say I was on the market to buy it, but I was looking around at the glass candelabras, and there was 7-branch glass candelabras. But I don't paskin off what they have in the stores in Gula. Okay. Next question, which is very interesting. What's the deal? What's the story with Mechon hamikdash? Those that are familiar, in the Rova, they have this big, huge menorah that's like 6 feet tall, like maybe 18 tfachim, and it's gold, and it's made by Mechon hamikdash. They also make lots of other stuff. They make the begodim of the Kohen Gadol, and they make the shulchan, and all sorts of kelim of the beis hamikdash. But the most famous is the menorah, because you see the big, astounding gold masterpiece in the Rova. It's actually not pure gold, but it's a lot of gold. Apparently, I checked their website. Apparently, it's 45 kilos of gold. I think it's 108 pounds of gold is used in the making of that menorah. Now, that menorah they made, as far to the best of their knowledge, I don't know whether it was a Reb Chaina or it was a Ramosha or it was a Chazon Ish. I don't know whose tfachim they used, but they did it to the best of their possible ability to make an exact make it look exactly like the beis hamikdash. The question is that allowed? Are they allowed to make one of those menorahs just like the beis hamikdash? L'chayra, it's an absolute issur according to everybody, even according to the Marik, the Chacham Tzvi, who we were making with before. Over here, what are you going to say? It seems like it's an absolute replica. It's perfect. It can't get worse than that. How could they do that? So I think what they would answer is like this. They would answer, we didn't make a replica. What do you mean you didn't make a replica? No, we didn't make a replica. This is it. They claim to have made this menorah for the beis hamikdash. And, we have a mitzvah in the Torah to make the kelim of the beis hamikdash. We did if you can't make anything look like the menorah, how are you going to ever become your mitzvah of making the menorah of the beis hamikdash? It's a mitzvah. Now, I have no idea whether the poskim are cool with this or not, because who told them to make the kelim of the beis hamikdash? But then again, I don't know if anybody needs to tell them. Do you have any proof that it needs to be a navi to tell somebody to make the kelim of the beis hamikdash? I don't know. I find it very interesting, very perplexing. I don't know what the poskim have to say, but l'maisa, I hear their tzad. We're not making a replica. We're making it for the beis hamikdash. Maybe that works. I don't know. And until then, one day we'll find out, I guess. All right, enjoy, guys.